Well, I thought I would go and kind of give my own history because I used to be a programmer, and I became aware of the H-1B program in 1994 when my next-door neighbor got the exact same thing that Leo is describing at AIG, at Sealand, and other programmers in our area. We're having a problem hearing?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
No, just Washington is.
Oh, okay. That's right. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we had and also at AIG in my area in New Jersey had also at the same time replaced 250 programmers. So that right then, that was about 600 programmers losing their job in a small geographic area, and that has a big impact in your job market. And like Leo, I was shocked. I mean, how is it legal for a company to replace Americans with foreign workers? I mean, I just thought that was against the law. And at the time, AIG was boasting about how this was going to save all kinds of great money. And 2 years later, I actually was a computer consultant at AIG, and at that time they had actually gotten rid of all their H-1B replacements because it turned out yeah, they were cheap, but they were completely incompetent. And you should have seen the mess that was created there, and it was costing them a fortune to clean up afterwards. But the problem is that companies don't talk about their messes. You know, they only talk about their success, what they think is their success. So stories like that never happen. So other companies go and do the same thing. I also point out that around this time, I actually wrote my first books, which were on computer programming. So if you can go and dig in my books on image compression and learn how to reduce the discrete cosine transform into Gaussian normal form. So that was the kind of stuff that I was. That was the kind of stuff I was doing. And then I was working at Dun & Bradstreet as a consultant, and I was watching all the Americans being replaced by foreign workers, just as it happened at AIG, although now I was seeing it firsthand as it happened. In fact, we have a copy in the book of the memo Dun & Bradstreet's CIO sent out to their employees to asking them to cooperate as they are being replaced. And also around this time came the first bill to expand the H-1B program, and this was an eye-opening experience for me because it was H.R. 3736 from the 105th Congress. I can still remember that. The bill increased the number of H-1B workers, but contained a provision to ban the replacement of Americans by foreign workers, like we're describing here. And I remember in the trade press reading, industry lobbyists saying, "Over my dead body will this pass." They were saying that the industry lobbyists saying, if we can't replace Americans with foreign workers, we don't even want an expansion in H-1B. And so the bill came out of the House Judiciary Committee with this provision. So the industry gets more H-1B workers, but they can't replace Americans. And the Republican leadership in the House, and Newt Gingrich, we ought to name names who was responsible for this, working with Senator Abraham, replaced the bill passed by the Judiciary Committee with one written by industry lobbyists, and the new bill went from 21 pages to 42 pages, and now it became explicitly legal to replace Americans with foreign workers. So, when we're sitting here now, when cases like what Leo's describing at Disney are becoming public, we hear all the politicians start saying, "Oh yeah, we need investigations." Marco Rubio in the debate saying, we ought to have these protections in the bill. This isn't by accident. Replacing Americans by foreign workers is a deliberate part of the H-1B program. The only thing that's happening by accident is you folks in the media have suddenly started reporting on it, which hadn't been going on for 20 years. And so shortly thereafter, Michelle's book came out, and I know it's kind of interesting because Michelle's book, my autographed copy, congratulates me on getting into law school. Because about this time I said, it's clear America doesn't want Americans to be programmers. Our government wants Americans to get out, and so I went to law school in the early part of this millennium, and then While I was in law school, Congress passed another bill, 2004, explicitly allowing employers to pay H-1B workers at the 17th percentile of U.S. wages. No longer even the prevailing wage. It's now the 17th percentile. That's the H-1B program's quote prevailing wage. So that comes out to be about $20,000 a year less than what Americans do. So replacing Americans with low is by design from Congress. Paying them low wages is by design from Congress. So when we hear these complaints from Congress that we need to do something, it's Congress that needs to do something and stop being beholden to the industry lobbyists. And the next chronological event I'll come to came in 2008. That year, we ran into the H-1B quota problem. The Congress had passed three increases to H-1B. By 2008, they were kind of getting tired of industry demands for more. So Microsoft proposed to the Secretary of Homeland Security over a dinner party to use student visas as a substitute for H-1B visas. And DHS then went in absolute secrecy, created new regulations to extend the period of what they call OPT, which allowed aliens to work for a year after graduation, to work for up to 27 to 35 months, depending on when they actually graduate. And DHS did this in complete secrecy and put these regulations in place without notice and comment. So the first the public learned these regulations were even being considered was when they were put in place. And that's kind of been near and dear to my heart because I've been involved in litigation over the years. And we finally got them set aside with my legal team, the buddies over there, in August. But DHS's response was to go put out new regulations to make the period that people could work on graduation even longer. And so I've been asked to mention that you can go to stopoverreach.com to get some ideas on how you can respond to the public comments that have to be submitted by Wednesday. And then I'd like to next chronological thing, and I guess it's probably last in my chronology here, maybe next to last, is the comprehensive immigration reform, which I find very frustrating because I'm one of the 13 people on the planet who's actually read the bill end to end, and I've actually in all the guest worker programs have actually pasted all the edits into the code to see what it actually does. And I can report back to you that there is no reform whatsoever in comprehensive immigration reform. And I think it's pretty. One of the ironies here is that we have the politician, particularly Mr. Rubio, is talking about how we ought to reform the H-1B program. But Rubio, you wrote the bill, and where was this reform? It's not there. You're co-sponsored the I-Squared Act that makes the expands the H-1B program. Where are all these reforms you should say? So, in essence, the history of the H-1B program has been give lobbyists everything they want and nothing that they don't want. Which then comes what I'll give the final event to close here is now the presidential campaign. And literally, we have reached a point in America where the majority of presidential candidates support replacing Americans with foreign workers. They're so beholden to campaign cash and their big donors that they're literally incapable of independent thought. Jeb Bush, for example, enthusiastically supports replacing Americans with foreign workers. Hillary Clinton has helped foreign companies replace Americans with foreign workers, setting it up on an offshoring site in New York. Marco Rubio, I've mentioned a few times, wrote the bill to replace Americans with foreign workers and is co-sponsoring another bill to replace Americans with foreign workers. The only thing now that isn't working right in the H-1B program is that you guys are reporting on it. And which is kind of ironic because the reason we wrote the book, when we started this, now it's like a year or two, when we started this, no one was reporting on it. And we were hoping that maybe we can get people to report on the H-1B abuse. Now the book has come out in the middle of when the H-1B abuse is starting to be reported. So that's my shtick.